Matthew Weston, the billionaire who had everything anyone could dream of, stepped down from his exquisite luxury supercar. His polished shoes tapped softly on the earth beneath him. His eyes scanned the surroundings, and for the first time, he felt a knot tighten in his stomach. In front of him stood a dilapidated house, its walls cracked and crumbling. The house seemed to sag under the weight of time and neglect. It was a stark contrast to the opulence Matthew was accustomed to, the cold gleam of his car reflecting off the sun as it sat parked on the dirt ground. Matthew muttered to himself, "This is unbelievable and not what I expected." His eyes wandered from the house to the ground beneath his feet. How did I never see this before? As Matthew took in the pitiable scene, the wind kicked up dust, swirling around the house and into the air. The ground beneath his feet was not paved with gold, but dirt, raw, bare earth that showed the signs of a hard life. There were no manicured lawns here, no fountains, no grand gates, just the simple, humble home of his maid, Christabel. He felt a sense of unease wash over him. "I never knew," he continued walking around the house, each step making him more uncomfortable than the last. He was used to grandeur, to wealth and privilege. But this was a world he had never dared to enter, a world that had been hidden from him, despite Christabel's unwavering kindness over the years. As he walked, he noticed the rusted corrugated iron roof that barely kept the house standing, the cracked windows with no curtains, and the broken fence that seemed to have long since given up on keeping the outside world out. "This place, it's falling apart." He felt a pang in his chest, but it was only when he circled the house and stood still for a moment that the tears threatened to fall. "This is real. This is a life I never saw, and now I'm seeing it." He wiped his eyes quickly, his hands shaking. Finally, he made his way to the front door and knocked lightly. His heart was racing. He had no idea what he expected, but nothing could have prepared him for what he saw when he entered. Inside, the scent of dampness filled the air. There was no plush furniture, no decorations. Only a rickety, broken wooden chair sat in the corner, its splintered wood barely holding together. The floor was covered with an old, threadbare mat, worn thin from years of use. It was clear this house had not seen comfort in a long time. And there, lying on the floor, were Christabel's parents, two frail, elderly figures who barely seemed to stir at anyone. They were lying on the floor, their sunken faces pale with sickness, covered by tattered blankets. Their bodies looked like they hadn't been moved in days. Matthew could see that they were sleeping, or perhaps they were too weak to wake up. Christabel, who had always been a picture of strength and grace, was now on her knees by their side, tears streaming down her face. She had no more words left to speak. The weight of everything she had carried over the years was crashing down on her now. Matthew stood in the doorway for a long moment, not knowing what to do. His emotions swirled inside him. Guilt, sorrow, and an unfamiliar vulnerability. He was a billionaire. He could fix anything. But this was different. This wasn't something you could just write a check for. Finally, he stepped into the room, his presence now heavy in the silence. Christabel's tear-streaked face looked up, shocked to see him standing there. She wiped her eyes hurriedly, trying to regain some composure, but it was clear she had reached the end of her strength. "Mr. Weston?" she said, her voice trembling. "What are you doing here?" Her words felt like a punch to the gut. She had always been so humble, so selfless, always putting on a brave face for him. Yet now, here she was, exposed, vulnerable, and broken in a way Matthew had never imagined. He wanted to say something, anything, to comfort her, but all he could do was walk over to the wooden chair and sit down, his heart heavy with the reality of what he was witnessing. The tears that he had fought so hard to hold back finally spilled over. He couldn't stop them. This wasn't just about the house, the broken walls, or the poverty. This was about the human cost, the silent suffering of someone he had known for years but never truly seen. And now he was witnessing it firsthand. Christabel's pain was not something that could be erased with money, with luxury. This was the pain of a life spent caring for others while neglecting herself. The pain of watching your loved ones suffer, and the pain of hopelessness that came with it. She dropped to her knees beside him, her sobs filling the room. "I don't know what to do anymore," she cried, her voice raw with exhaustion. "I've tried so hard, Mr. Weston, but nothing is enough. I can't do it all alone." Matthew sat still, the weight of her words sinking deep into his chest. He had never seen someone so broken, so full of love for others, but so empty for herself. And in that moment, he understood. He understood what had been happening under his nose all along. Christabel had given everything, but she had never received anything back, not even from him. He looked at her, his voice cracking as he finally spoke. "Christabel, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." The tears flowed freely now, and all the walls that Matthew had built around himself for years crumbled in an instant. Christabel looked up at him, her face a mixture of disbelief and sorrow. "Sorry for what?" she whispered, shaking her head as if she couldn't quite grasp what was happening. "Sorry for what, Mr. Weston? What could you possibly be sorry for?" Matthew swallowed hard, trying to push down the lump in his throat. He had no answers. He had no way of explaining the guilt that weighed on him. The years he had spent completely blind to the sacrifices she made. He had been so consumed by his own life, his business, his empire, that he had never truly seen her. Not the real her. He had never seen her as more than just the woman who cleaned his house, who worked tirelessly without a single complaint, who went about her day with a quiet grace that now made him feel more ashamed than he ever had in his life. "Christabel, I should have known," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I should have done more. I could have helped." Christabel was laced with tears. She stood up and walked to the corner of the room, pulling the threadbare blanket off her parents and adjusting it over them. "It's too late for help, Mr. Weston," she said, her voice steady but cold. "You can't change anything now." Matthew watched her move about the room, feeling helpless and exposed. He wanted to do something, anything, but it was as if the weight of her pain had already crushed him. All he could do was sit there, paralyzed by his own failures. The silence between them stretched on, heavy and suffocating. He had been a billionaire for years, a man who could make anything happen, but in this moment, he felt utterly powerless. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice breaking the silence. "Why didn't you let me know? I would have helped." Christabel interrupted him, her voice growing louder with the frustration that had been building in her chest. "What would you have done, Mr. Weston? Given me a raise? Sent me a check? Is that what you think would fix this?" She threw her hands up in the air, as if the very thought disgusted her. "You think money can solve everything, but money won't fix my parents. Money won't heal them, and money won't heal me. Hope I am not sounding annoying, Mr. Weston." Matthew stood up now, his heart racing, his fists clenching. "I didn't know," his voice full of raw emotion. "I didn't know you were going through this. I didn't know you were carrying this weight all on your own." Christabel's face softened for a moment, but the sadness in her eyes remained. She took a deep breath and wiped away the last of her tears. "And I never wanted you to know," she said quietly. "I didn't want anyone to pity me. I didn't want to be a burden." Matthew took a step toward her, his chest tightening. "You're not a burden," he said, his voice firm. "You never were." For a long moment, they just stared at each other, the tension thick in the room. Then, Christabel looked away, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I don't want your pity, Mr. Weston. I don't need your money. I just want my parents to be okay." Matthew's heart broke at her words. He didn't know how to fix this. He didn't know how to undo the years of neglect, the years of pain Christabel had silently carried. But in that moment, he realized something he had never understood before. He couldn't fix everything with his wealth. He couldn't throw money at her problems and expect them to go away. What Christabel needed was something far more valuable than money. She needed someone who truly saw her, someone who could stand by her side, not as her employer, but as a human being, someone who cared. And he needed to show her that he was that person. "I'll stay with you," he said suddenly, surprising even himself. "I'll stay. I won't leave you alone in this." Christabel turned back to him, confusion and disbelief on her face. "What do you mean?" "I'm not leaving," Matthew repeated, his voice steady now, despite the tremor in his hands. "I'll help you, Christabel, not with money, but with everything else. I'll help you care for your parents. I'll help you make sure they get the care they need, and I'll be here no matter what." For the first time, Christabel's expression faltered. Her lips trembled as tears fell freely from her eyes. She took a step forward, as if unsure whether to trust him or pull away. But in the end, it didn't matter. Her heart had already made the decision. She collapsed into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Matthew held her tightly, letting her cry, letting her release the weight she had been carrying for so long. His chest ached with the weight of her pain, but in that moment, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. He wasn't just a billionaire anymore. He was someone who could make a difference, and he would start by showing Christabel that she wasn't alone. As the weeks passed, Matthew's commitment to Christabel deepened. But it wasn't just his emotions that drove him. It was the urgent desire to change the way things had been for so long, to make things right, to give Christabel and her family a chance at a better life. He had never been one to shy away from a challenge, but this was different. This wasn't just about business deals or managing employees. This was about real lives, real people who had been forgotten for far too long. He couldn't just look at Christabel and her parents the same way anymore. The weight of their suffering pressed down on him with every passing day, and he knew he had to act. By the end of the month, the transformation began. Matthew had arranged for Christabel's family to be moved to a newly renovated, spacious house, just a few miles away from the city. It was a beautiful bungalow with large windows that looked out into a lush garden. The old, run-down house was nothing more than a distant memory now. Christabel's parents, who had been confined to a small, dark room for so long, now had comfortable beds in a well-lit room with clean sheets, access to top-tier medical care, and the constant support of a nurse Matthew hired personally. Christabel, who had always given so much of herself without asking for anything in return, could hardly believe what was happening. She stood in the middle of her new home, overwhelmed by the size, the cleanliness, and the comfort. Tears filled her eyes, but these weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of gratitude and disbelief. Matthew didn't stop there. He hired a full-time staff, a cook who prepared fresh, nutritious meals for the family every day, a gardener to maintain the expansive grounds, and a driver who could take them anywhere they needed to go. No more worrying about transportation, no more struggling to feed her family. Everything was taken care of. For the first time in years, Christabel felt a sense of peace, knowing that she no longer had to carry the burden of her family's well-being on her own shoulders. Matthew, smiling as he sees Christabel's reaction. "I want you to live the life you deserve, Christabel. You and your family deserve peace." Christabel wiped away her tears, looking at him with a soft, grateful expression. A few days after they moved into their new home, Matthew took Christabel's parents to the hospital for a thorough checkup. The doctors began their treatment immediately. Christabel's father, who had been bedridden for months, began showing signs of improvement within a few days. Her mother, once frail and weak, started gaining strength. Matthew had made sure they were in the best hands, surrounded by people who truly cared. One evening, weeks later, Matthew and Christabel stood in the garden of their new home, gazing up at the night sky. The stars twinkled above them, but there was a different kind of light in Christabel's eyes, one of hope, of new beginnings. "Christabel," her voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you, Mr. Weston. I don't even know how to begin to thank you for all this." Matthew, smiling softly. "You don't need to thank me, Christabel. This is just the beginning. You deserve all of this and more." Her heart swelled with a mix of emotions, gratitude, disbelief, but above all, love. She hadn't just been saved by his wealth. She had been seen in a way she never had been before. Matthew Weston had changed everything for her, not just her circumstances, but also how she saw herself. Christabel, whispering with awe, "I never thought this would happen. I thought I was stuck in this life forever, but now everything feels different." Matthew, reaching out to gently hold her hand. "We're both getting a second chance, Christabel. Life doesn't always give us that, but when it does, we have to seize it. I'm not just offering you a new house, a new life. I'm offering you the chance to live without limits, and I'll be here every step of the way." For the first time in her life, Christabel felt free. Free from the constant weight of worry. Free from the life of silence and self-sacrifice. And in Matthew, she saw something more than just a man who had saved her. She saw someone who truly cared, someone who had finally seen her, not as his employee, not as someone to pity, but as someone worth loving and protecting. As the days went by, the bond between Matthew and Christabel only grew stronger. What there started as gratitude blossomed into something much deeper. Matthew had always respected her, but now he found himself truly falling in love with her, not just for her strength, but for her heart, her kindness, and the depth of her spirit. One evening, after dinner, as they sat together in the living room, Matthew took a deep breath. "Matthew," his voice steady, but filled with emotion. "Christabel, I can't keep pretending. I've never been good at expressing my feelings, but the truth is, I don't just care about you. I've fallen in love with you, and I want to be with you, not just as your employer, but as something more." Christabel's heart skipped a beat. For a moment, she was speechless. She had never expected this. Matthew Weston, the billionaire, was in love with her. But as she looked into his eyes, she knew that this wasn't about his wealth or status. It was about something much more profound. "Christabel," whispering softly, "I love you too. I've loved you in my own way for a long time, even when I didn't know how to say it. And so, as the seasons changed, so did their lives. Matthew and Christabel started a new chapter together. They traveled, they laughed, they loved, and above all, they grew together, not as employer and employee, but as equals. Matthew helped Christabel fulfill her dreams, supporting her as she started a business of her own, one that would help other women in need. Matthew had come into her life to save her, but in the process, she had saved him, teaching him what truly mattered in life. Together, they built something far more valuable than wealth. They built a life filled with love, hope, and purpose. And though their story had started with pain, it ended with something beautiful, a new beginning for both of them, a future where nothing could tear them apart.